What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Glory UGA podcast. And on today's show, we've got some more buzz coming out of Georgia football's fall camp to break down. And this time, it's a true freshman, a summer enrollee true freshman who is quickly opening eyes on the field for the Dogs this fall. So I'll tell you who that is and what it means for this Georgia football team. But first, if you're a diehard Georgia fan, go ahead, subscribe right now, turn those notifications on because we got a ton more content coming your way designed for all you Georgia diehards to get you prepared for the start of the 2025 season. So subscribe, like, comment, and while you're at it, if you're in the market for some Georgia game day gear, and if you're a Georgia diehard, I know you are, make sure to check out Alumni Hall for the best selection of Georgia gear anywhere out there. But all right, guys, let's dive in. And if you remember, if you checked out the last episode of the week, I gave you guys the universal buzz that I've been hearing around Noah Thomas really since fall camp kicked off, late last week through the weekend, and that certainly hasn't dropped off. It hasn't abated whatsoever, and I'm really excited to see what Noah does on the field for Georgia during our first scrimmage on Saturday, just a couple of days from now. But as buzzy of a name as Noah Thomas has been for the past week or so, it's not the only name that has generated some buzz around Athens over the course of the past week. So I've got some more buzz to dive into and share with you guys today. This time, though, it is about a summer enrollee true freshman. And guys, to be honest with you, in the interest of full disclosure, I was not originally going to do this episode and share this information right now with you. The plan was to hold all this information for early next week, so I had a full week plus of practice to share with you guys, practice notes, things that I've been hearing coming at practice, and give you guys all that at one time. And I'm still going to do that because we're going to have a full week plus of practice plus a fall scrimmage, our first fall scrimmage on Saturday, and we'll go through the top standouts at large, at least based on what I'm hearing through the early stages of fall camp. We'll do that early next week. But the buzz around this one particular player has just gotten too loud to ignore at this point, if we're being real. Again, just like the Noah Thomas stuff from earlier in the week, I gotta put this out there. I gotta say it before we dive into who I'm talking about here. It's very early. It's still early. It's not as early as it was with the Noah Thomas stuff, but it's still early in fall camp, relatively speaking. And we are, with this guy, talking about a true freshman summer enrollee. And I emphasize the summer enrollee part because that means he was not here for the spring, which means that I have not seen this guy in a Georgia uniform for a single snap. Not at practice, not at G-Day, nothing like that. All I've got to go on here is what I heard coming out of the summer workouts and now the first weekish or so of fall camp. And again, it means it's second, third-hand type stuff. But like Noah Thomas, his name has been coming up in basically every conversation that I've had over the course of the past week. And it keeps coming up. It's not stopping. So that's why it's time to talk about true freshman Raylan Dinkens. And I started to hear some buzz about Dinkens and around his name at times over the course of the summer when you're talking about offseason workouts and 7-on-7 work, which is, not uncommon. You hear that type of stuff every summer. Not about necessarily every player, but there's always a number of players you hear like, oh man, this guy's doing big things out at practice right now during 7-on-7 stuff. No one can cover him. He's catching everything, or no one is catching a football. And we're talking about a DB. He's flying all over the place. Great athlete, great measurables, all that kind of stuff. You hear that every summer. That's not uncommon. And sometimes, yeah, it ends up meaning something once the season gets here, and other times, maybe not so much. It doesn't really pan out on the field in that given year. Because everyone is apparently doing great during the summer. You never hear that anyone just sucks during the summer. But again, you don't hear every name is standing out. So there's that. And the positive things that I was hearing about Dinkens over the course of the summer, and it was just, a little chatter here and there, that has continued to carry over now into fall camp. And that's why I can't keep ignoring it. I didn't say much about it over the summer because like I don't know if I feel comfortable bringing it here right now because we're not talking about any padded practices. Coaches aren't even really out there, so like we gotta wait and see, right? But again, that chatter, that buzz continues to carry on, and he's a guy, Dinkens, that has a lot of people inside the Butts-Mehre facility very excited right now. So who is this kid, and does he actually have a legit shot as a summer enrollee true freshman to start or play significant snaps for Georgia in 2025? So, look, I know a lot of you follow recruiting very closely, and you probably have a working familiarity with Raylan Dinkens at the very least. If you don't follow recruiting very closely, you probably don't have much familiarity with him right now. So let me just kind of give you a quick little background on Dinkens before I dive in, like what might he be able to do for this Georgia football team in 2025. So he's a 5'11", about 185-pound defensive back. He's from Warner Robins, Georgia, and was only the 18th highest rated commitment in Georgia's 2025 class. So he's a guy like was a solid recruit. Most teams around the country would have been head over heels to land a guy like this. Most fans and of various teams out there in the country would have loved to get a guy of this caliber. But for Georgia, with the way that we recruit, he was a guy that to a large degree flew under the radar for this Georgia 2025 class because he got lost in the shuffle behind, I don't know, what do we have, like 9 top 100 guys in this second rated class for the 2025 class. So yeah, he's got a little lost in the shuffle when he's the 18th highest rated guy to 28 commits in this class. But I don't really care about that. That doesn't mean he can't play, guys. And I told you back in February, and I know it's been a minute, guys. I know February was like 5-ish months ago at this point. But I did an episode back in February, shortly after that old school traditional signing period in February, breaking down every single player in Georgia's 2025 class. And I went back and looked. You guys can go back and check the tape if you want to. I got it on YouTube, got it on the audio side of things. So you can go back and run the tape and check out what I said directly about Raylan Dinkens. But here's what I have in my notes. I went back and pulled up my notes from February when I did that episode. And here's what I had in my notes about Dinkens from that show. Number 1, just the word violent. Can play in the box, covers ground. I see a lot of Javon Bullard in him. Underrated. And finally, I said, love in all caps. Love this guy. That was what was in my notes heading into that show where I broke down every player in Georgia's 2025 recruiting class. And it sounds, at least to this point, about a week or so into fall camp, like all of it is playing out. All of those notes I had are kind of playing out right now on the field. And look, I did really like him coming out of high school. You can go check the tape again and to get my take on that before I knew that he was going to be doing anything in fall camp. But saying that, I was also pretty clear that I didn't expect him to make a big impact in year 1. When I was talking about my impact freshmen, my top 5 impact freshmen and the honorable mentions on that list that I did about a month or so ago now at this point, Raylan Dinkens was not on that list. So yeah, I liked him a lot, as evidenced by the notes I had about him, but I also didn't expect him to do much for Georgia as a true freshman. It wasn't so much that I didn't like the talent. It had way more to do with the fact that, again, he is a summer enrollee true freshman. I keep emphasizing that because that's what blows me away about Raylan Dinkens right now and the buzz that he's generating. It's not unprecedented. We've had some guys come in as summer enrollees and like generate attention right away. The one that comes to mind most recently would be Nate Frazier last year. Wasn't here for the spring. I went to a fall camp practice early, I think like the second or third practice last year. And I came on here and I've told you guys this several times. Immediately, the first guy that I threw at you when I sat down to record that episode, kind of recapping what I saw at practice, I was like, Nate Frazier, y'all. This guy's the truth. He's going to play right away. So it's not unprecedented, but at the same time, it's a lot harder to make a name for yourself in fall camp as a summer enrollee true freshman because the reality is you are just simply behind. You're behind the 8 ball. Guys, 24 of the 28 commitments in Georgia's 2025 recruiting class were early enrollees, which means that they started last semester in January. They were here for spring practice. And so those guys, the 24 of our 28 members of the 2025 recruiting class that were here as early enrollees for spring practice, they went through that head spinning phase back in March and April, because pretty much all freshmen go through that to some degree at some point. And most of those guys went through that. The Talon Taylors, the CJ Wileys of the world, the Elijah Griffins of the world, all those guys, they went through that period, that phase 3-4 months ago. And now, as we are in fall camp, they're ready to hit the ground running and now starting to make moves up depth charts. It's not about learning what to do. Like, they're still learning. Sure, they're young, but it's not like about, okay, how do we do practice? Like, where do I go? What do I do? Like, what is this coverage? What is this front? That's not what's as much for them. Now they're in a position where they can actually start making moves up depth charts. But for a summer enrollee, it's harder to do that. Dinkens wasn't here for the spring to go through that period. His head spinning phase should be right now. Like, that's what he should be doing right now. It's kind of just his head spinning, not knowing exactly what's going on, blowing assignments here and there, flashing athleticism and playmaking ability, but not doing it consistently because he's not fully clear on exactly what's going on, right? Most freshmen go through that, but it's sounding like Dinkens, as of right now, maybe he'll hit that freshman wall here at some point, probably will, but right now, through a week or so of fall camp, it's sounding like Dinkens, for some reason, might just be immune from that typical true freshman head-spinning phase of practice where you get there and you don't quite know what's going on for a little while until you kind of get adjusted to the speed of things at the college level. And right now, he's just opening eyes, man. He is opening the eyes of everyone that is watching him at practice, including the Georgia coaching staff. So now the obvious question becomes, where does he play and how much of a chance does he have to earn significant snaps for Georgia in 2025? Can he really help Georgia as much as the buzz that we're hearing about him right now would seem to indicate that he's got a chance to? Now, that certainly is going to largely be determined by where he plays. He is a DB, but he's not really a corner. He's a really good athlete, but he's much more of either. When you look at the skill set, certainly the fact that to me, the biggest attribute that stands out when I watch the tape on Dinkens is how violent this guy is. I mean, he is a physical DB, like a truly violent DB. Physicality is certainly is the name of his game, but it's beyond just like typical physicality. That's why I use the word violent. He will straight up light you up, lay people out. So he's violent, he's physical, he's also explosive. So with that skill set, to me, he projects either as a safety or a star long-term in Georgia's defense. Personally, I prefer him at star. I think he's a better fit there, but I'm just some dude, right? What I prefer doesn't matter. So he could end up playing safety. I could see him, as he gets more and more familiar with our system, probably cross-training at both positions, which is not uncommon when you talk about the stars and the safeties in our secondary. But I like him at star more than safety exactly because of the violent nature of his play. Not only the way he strikes ball carriers, and dear Lord, does he strike ball carriers? Yes, he does. And if you haven't seen his high school tape, guys, do yourself a favor. His senior tape's like almost 9 minutes long. So there's a ton of clips. There's a lot of offensive clips in there as well. But even though he's not going to play offense for us, it does give you some indication of like the type of athleticism we're talking about. But go turn on this tape. The first 3 or 4 minutes is primarily him playing defense, and you'll see what I'm talking about in terms of like laying people out, the violent nature of his play. And again, it's not only that he's striking ball carriers that way, but it's also the way that he attacks blocks. It's just the way he approaches the game. In a lot of ways, when you watch Rayshawn Dinkens play, you see a linebacker operating in the DB's body. That's what I see, a linebacker that just happens to be a DB, which is essentially the job description of a star in Georgia's defense. You are a hybrid linebacker DB. That's why Janelle Aguero, I've always said, is a great fit, because he's got the skill set, that body that's really hard to find. It's hard to find DBs that are big enough, strong enough, physical enough to hold up against the run with the run fit responsibilities that you have in the box at times from the star position, but also athletic enough to cover those quicker, shiftier, faster slot receivers. It's tough to find guys like that. They don't grow on trees, man. It's a unique player to fit that role, and that's a really important role in Georgia's defense. Offenses now, they really try to attack defenses with hybrid players where you can run the football, you can throw the football with them, and that makes it a really tough matchup for defenses. So as a defense, what do you do to counter these hybrid players that offenses are now throwing out there? Guys like Brock Bowers once upon a time, Caden Prothrow in this class. How do you counter that? Well, you find hybrid defensive players of your own to match up with them that can fit effectively against the run with physicality, but also cover in space and feel comfortable out there in space, cover these faster guys in the slot. And that is what Dinkens brings. He's that kind of player. And those are so hard to find that, again, I think he can absolutely play safety. But to some degree, it's almost like you're wasting him if he plays safety, unless you feel like you have another really, really good option that fits that star position just as well as Dinkens does. And look, we recruit really well in the defensive backfield. Right now, I think Janelle Aguero fits that mold really, really well. Like some of the guys, Adrian Maddox, Harris that we brought in from Miami. Those guys also can play that role as well. But I really do like Dinkens as a star. I think he can absolutely function as a safety, but I think for me, 100%, I think he's much more of a star. And look, when you look at star and safety, getting to the part of like, okay, does he actually have a shot to really play for Georgia this year? When you look at safety and you look at star, both those positions, neither position has starters that I would classify as firmly entrenched in those positions. KJ Bolden at safety, yes, he's firmly entrenched. He's going to start, zero questions. He's going to be the guy, one of the two guys, along with Dalen Everett in the Georgia secondary. He's going to be responsible for calling a lot of coverages out there. He's going to be a leader as much as he plays a true freshman a year ago. But outside of him, is Ja'Cory Thomas like firmly entrenched in that safety spot? No, he's not. He's, as I've said, the leader in the clubhouse. I've held on to that belief for a while now. He's the leader in the clubhouse there, but he doesn't have that safety position opposite KJ like firmly locked down. You guys know, if you've been listening to the podcast for a long time, how much I love Janelle Aguero. I just mentioned him. I think he's a great fit for star, just like Rayshon Dinkens is. So I'm really high on what Janelle can be. And he did start 5 games for us a year ago, but there were a number of games where, most games as the season progressed, with third downs, we're taking him off the field and you put Malachi Starks in there for coverage reasons. So while Janelle certainly has the edge, clearly has the edge at star, I don't think you would classify him as having like a dead lock, a firm grasp on that position, leading for the starting job there, certainly, but locked down, I don't know if I would quite go that far. So when you look at both safety and star, it's not like we have, outside of KJ Bolden, not like we have these returning all SEC caliber players that are just like incumbent stars that cannot be moved from that position. Now, saying that, while like we don't have like necessarily firmly entrenched guys, I still don't expect Dinkens to start anywhere, at least not to open the season, because I do think, with the experience that a guy like Ja'Cory Thomas has in our system, clearly has a head start. He's a good player in his own right. I love Janelle Aguero. I think he's a really good fit for that position, just like Rayshon Dinkens is. Certainly has a lot more experience than Dinkens has. So I still expect those guys to likely be the starters, very likely be the starters for Georgia at the safety and star position, respectively. So I don't necessarily think he's going to start, but what I can say right now, based on everything I've been hearing, is that Dinkens is flying up the depth chart and really putting himself in position to earn some legitimate snaps with the Georgia defense. And if he gets some opportunities early in the year, we start with 2 games where, ideally, playing Marshall and Austin Peay, some of these guys that are younger players like Dinkens, hopefully will get a lot of opportunities to play in the second half of those games. And if he performs when he gets those opportunities, he's probably going to get more and more and more opportunities as the season progresses. So who knows what's going to happen as we get deeper in the season. But right now, I don't expect him to start. But at the very least, I think what we can say right now, based off what I'm hearing, is that the future for Rayshon Dinkens at Georgia appears to be incredibly bright. And it appears also that future may come sooner rather than later. So certainly a name to keep an eye on, guys, and we'll keep you covered with all things fall camp, but certainly the development and progression of Rayshon Dinkens as a summer enrollee true freshman as we continue through the course of fall camp. But again, I will be back early next week, first episode next week, breaking down all the standouts coming out of the first week and a half plus of Georgia's fall camp, including the first fall scrimmage, which we will hold on Saturday. I'll be trying to dig all week on anything I can gather about that scrimmage. So come back next week, guys. We're gonna have you fully covered with a lot of content. But thank you guys for being here. If you are a diehard Georgia fan, this is what you can expect on this channel. This is content designed for all you diehards. So subscribe, like, comment, all that, guys. It really is appreciated as I continue to grow this channel. But for now, guys, thank you so much for being here. Have a fantastic weekend. I'm Tyler, and as always, go Dogs!